shocking reason why narcissists become obsessed with you. Sometimes it can leave you wondering what all of this is about. Why are they obsessing over you? Why can't they leave you alone? Why are you always occupying their thoughts, always on their mind? To the point where they have this obsession. And I'm going to give you the main reason, the main answer straight away. You don't even have to wait for it. The shocking reason why narcissists become obsessed with you, it's actually because of your unawareness. And so many of you, you may be watching narcissistic abuse content and thinking that you know it all already, thinking that you're already aware of their game, you're already aware of what they're trying to do. And yet the narcissist still has this obsession with you because you're not completely aware of it all. If you were fully aware of who they are, what you're dealing with, they wouldn't be obsessed with you at all. They remain obsessed with you as a result of your lack of awareness. Regardless of how much you may think you already know about them, regardless of how many videos you've watched. I hate to break it to you, but the reality is that for so many of you, you're still unaware. You still haven't put the pieces together. You still haven't figured them out. But it's not all on you, because most narcissists are never going to fully reveal themselves to you. They're never going to fully expose themselves. All you're going to see is just the tip of the iceberg. They're never going to let you see everything to the point where you've got that full closure and you understand exactly what you're dealing with. And this is why they're always like an unfinished puzzle. There's always pieces missing to where you don't fully understand, you don't fully grasp it, and then in some ways you're left holding on. You're still wanting closure, answers from them. And that's also what fuels their obsession, because you don't really know what they're about. You don't fully understand what you've been dealing with. But we're going to go into this in greater detail and really explore why the narcissist becomes obsessed with you. It is really because of your lack of awareness. It's because you're still under their control, whether you know it or not. In most situations, not all situations, because in some, you may not still be under their control. You may have figured them out. You may know exactly what you're dealing with to the T. You may already know everything that you need to know about them. They may just be delusional. They may be acting too cocky, too arrogant, thinking that you don't really know what you're dealing with, thinking that you haven't really figured them out. Sometimes that's just their grandiosity. They're a bit too overconfident in their manipulation. So even though you may have figured them out, you may have put all of the puzzles, all of the pieces of the puzzle together, they may not believe that you figured them out, and that's why they remain obsessed with you. And when that happens, you're really like an observer, an outsider looking in, and that's when you get the last laugh. That's when you're 10 steps ahead of them. When they think you don't know what you're really dealing with, they think you haven't figured them out, when in actuality you have. They just don't know it yet. And that's when you really get to toy with them, if you really want to, but that's just it. Because if you really figure them out, you won't care about toying with them. You won't care about playing games. If you figure them out to some degree and they are unaware of it and you're toying with them, you're playing games with them, That's because you haven't fully figured them out. If you fully figure them out, all you're going to want to do is just go no contact. You're not going to want to be dealing with them at all. You're not going to want to be toying with them, playing games. That stems from a lack of awareness, from a lack of fully understanding things. But yeah, we're going to go into this a bit deeper and really explore the shocking reason why narcissists become obsessed with you. Which, of course, it's because of your lack of awareness. When you're aware of them, when you're aware of what you're dealing with, typically, most of the time, they're not going to be obsessed with you anymore. But yeah, we're going to go into it. Give it a thumbs up. Let's make sure this video gets out there to as many people as possible so that they all become aware of this, so that they all understand what is going on. So when you don't know that the narcissist is still fixated on you, they feel in control. But also consider this, you may know that they're fixated on you to some degree, but you may not understand the full scope, the full extent of it. What you know is just the tip of the iceberg. You don't realize how deep this goes. You don't realize that they are completely obsessed, completely fixated on you. And that's how they still feel in control. Because you may just think it's a little thing where it's like, they're just stalking you on social media. They're just talking about you to your family or friends. But you don't realize that they're completely dependent on you. And you're like their oxygen. They can't live without you. You may not be aware of that. So there's levels to understanding this. And so they still feel in control. Even though you may understand to some degree that yes, they are fixated on you, they are obsessed with you. You don't know how deep their obsession goes. That's how they still feel in control. And that's what deepens their obsession even more. As a result of your lack of awareness. When you are unaware, the narcissist feels in control. Control to a narcissist is their obsession. They obsess over control. It's all they want. So you're just giving them control by remaining unaware. And this is what fuels the obsession. When you are aware, when you do have everything figured out, you're like an old toy. They get bored of you very quickly. It's no fun. They can't toy with you anymore. They can't deceive you, hide things from you, mislead you. They get bored very quickly. It doesn't fuel them anymore. It doesn't fuel their obsession. So they can just leave you alone. They can just forget about you. But when you are unaware, when you don't know what's going on, they're all over you like a rash. And of course, this is what we see at the beginning of the relationship when they're idealizing you, love bombing you. They're all over you. They can't get enough of you because you don't know. And even later on in the relationship, they still can't leave you alone. They're preoccupied with devaluing you, putting you down, making you feel small. Because you're still unaware. You still don't know. You still don't realize that you are greater, you are superior to them. And that's why they had to manipulate you, mislead you. That's why they had to disempower you instead of encouraging you, motivating you. Because you are outshining them. And yet if you're still unaware of that, they will remain in the relationship with you and they will just continue devaluing you. And especially if you've rejected them or if they've discarded you, you've gone your separate ways, They will still obsess over you. They will still stalk you on social media because they don't really believe that you have healed and moved on. They don't really believe that you are over them or that you're doing fine without them. And some of them are so arrogant. They see it as though, even though you've gone your separate ways, even though you've moved on, they see it as though you'd be far better off with them. And that's why they still have that obsession. Because they still feel like they've got control even though you've left. Even though you're not with them anymore. They feel like all they got to do is just blow up your phone again, pull you back in. And they can make you happy. They can give you a much better life. That's how they see it. So to them, they still feel in control. Because they feel like they've got it better than you. They feel like you're not doing good without them, even if you think that you are. In their minds, that just means you're even more unaware. You're just even more stupid, foolish. To think that you can make it on your own. To think that you can live a comfortable, successful life without them. This is how many of the grandiose narcissists think. Even when they see you in a new relationship with a new partner, they're still looking down on you. They may feel a little bit insecure since they no longer have that direct control over you. But they will double down on gaslighting themselves and telling themselves, yeah, but if you were with them, you'd be so much better off. You'd be so much happier. You'd feel so much more free. And sometimes that's more powerful than them actually having that direct control over you. Because there's a limit to what they can manifest in real life. In their minds, they can tell themselves anything. They can imagine anything in their minds about you. They can tell themselves whatever they want. And especially when they have access to your social media and they can see what's going on with you. And they can see that you may think you're moving on. You may think you're living your best life. But then to them, it's like, nah, that's just mediocre. That's nothing special. They feel like they still got you then. They still got their grip on you. Even though you may not even care. You may be happy. You may have moved on. But it's what they're telling themselves in their minds. Their delusions of grandeur. Never mind that they're a rotten piece of crap. Mistreated you for all of that time. They don't consider any of that. Remember, in their minds, they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're not thinking about all of the times that they mistreated you. So again, it's not always about your lack of awareness. A lot of times it is. But sometimes it could just be if they think you're unaware of something. And this could be anything as it pertains to them. It's whatever they're thinking about in any given moment. Whatever they see as a source of power. So it could be one day they're waking up in the morning, they're feeling grandiose, they're feeling on top of the world, they're getting that supply from other sources, and then they're just thinking to themselves, or they're talking to someone about you and they're thinking, oh, it's your loss, like you left them. Or it's such a shame that they had to let you go. It's what they're telling themselves, it's what they're talking about with other people. To kind of big themselves up, make them feel better, make them feel in control. But of course, they then have to get feedback, confirmation from you through stalking you on social media, gossiping about you with other people, and just telling themselves a story. But they have to get some kind of real feedback from you first to be able to confirm this narrative. Even though, yes, this narrative may be false. They twist it in their minds, just like when they were with you. They twist everything. They're not thinking about all of the horrible things they did to you. They can just rewrite the past. They can forget about all of that, and they can just start right now. They can start whenever they wanted to. They just make it up as they go along. And also consider they may have unfinished business with you. And with you being unaware of the depths that they're still fixated on you and obsessed with you, with you being unaware of all of that, it leaves them feeling like you have moved on and that you are living your best life without them. Unaware of their mental hold. Unaware of their obsession, their fixation. And that leaves them to feel stuck on you, to where they can't just let you go. It's like they want you to know what's going on in their minds. They want you to know what they're going through. And it's like they just can't rest until you know about it. And this is why many narcissists, they like to leave little hints, little clues. It's like they like to leave a trail of breadcrumbs, like in Hansel and Gretel. Little clues for you to follow. A puzzle for you to figure out. Because they like to toy with your mind. They like to play with your levels of awareness. Remember, all of this is regarding your awareness of them, to some extent. And so they like to toy with that. And if they feel like you're completely unaware of what's going on, they'll give you breadcrumbs to make you more aware, to get you to feed into it. And then it makes them feel significant. It makes them feel like they matter. But then, of course, this also fuels their obsession with you. It makes them have to come back to you to get it again. So in many ways, it is your lack of awareness that makes them obsessed with you. It's that you don't know. If you did know, if you fully understood what you were dealing with, you would likely be indifferent. Now, the way that they get you to not know, the way that they stunt your level of awareness is by manipulating you, love bombing you, or they may devalue you, make you feel like there's something wrong with you. This is how they keep you unaware, because none of this has anything to do with the truth. So to keep you unaware, they want to keep you away from the truth. They have to gaslight you. They have to distort your mind, your thought process. They have to make it like, just forget about all of that. None of that matters. Let's just play. Let's just have fun. They might just love bomb you. Well, if you don't fall for that, then they'll make you feel like there's something wrong with you. Because all of this, it stunts your level of awareness. It prevents you from really understanding what is going on and what you're actually dealing with. Once you're fully aware of what you're dealing with, you become indifferent. You lose interest in the narcissist. You no longer desire any sort of connection with them. As long as you're maintaining any sort of connection, as long as you're desiring any sort of validation, closure, understanding, whatever it may be, as long as you're desiring anything from them, it's because you lack awareness still. Because when you're fully aware, you no longer desire any of that. The only reason you're still desiring anything from them is because you're still trying to put the pieces together. You're still trying to figure things out. And as long as you're still trying to figure things out, it fuels their obsession. because that's providing them with a sense of control. Well, if you have figured them out, that immediately just makes them feel insecure, inadequate. It doesn't make them feel good at all. They're not going to be obsessed with something that does not make them feel good. They develop obsession with things that are making them feel something positive. It's adding something to them. It's giving them supply. And of course, when you're unaware, that's then giving them supply. Doesn't matter what it is, whether you're unaware of the love bombing phase or the devaluation, or when they're smearing you, isolating you, you're still unaware of something. They're still getting supply. But when you're indifferent, when you really understand that they just never deserved you, and you were better than them, and that there's really nothing to figure out other than they're just not even real, they're just completely fake. When you really understand that, they will lose interest in you. They will find another target, a new supply. So it's all determined by your awareness. When someone is aware of their narcissist, when they understand exactly what is going on, the narcissist will not even entertain them. They're not even going to bother with them. They're not going to want anything to do with that type of person. Someone who is aware. Now, of course, for us as victims, it's the exact opposite. We want people to know us. We want people to understand. We want people to be aware of what we went through. Remember, the narcissist is a manipulator, an abuser. They're a horrible person. The last thing they want is to deal with anyone who has any levels of awareness. And this is why it's really your lack of awareness that fuels the obsession. It's that you're not aware. Because if you were aware, they would be out of there. You would never hear from them again. This is why a lot of times they still stalk you on social media and they still gossip about you. It's because even though you've left them and you've moved on, you're still unaware to some extent. In many situations, or they may think that you're still unaware. They may not know that you've already got their number. You already know exactly what you were dealing with. They may not be aware of that, and so stalking you can still give them supply if they're just delusional. If they don't fully understand what is going on. Because they may still think that they've got you wrapped around their thumb. They may still think that, regardless of what's actually happening. So if they still think that, they can still get supply. They can still feel like they're in control. So in many ways, they don't even have to be in control of anything. They can just tell themselves a story. They can mix truth and falsehoods to create their own narrative and live in a fantasy world. Because remember, narcissists, they're fantasists. It's all make-believe with them. They just tell themselves a story, and then they get the new supply, their enablers, their flying monkeys, to validate it for them. To tell themselves that it is true. Remember, what fuels their disorder is their denial. It's characterized by denial. By their lack of awareness. And their lack of awareness is fueled by your lack of awareness. By you being unaware. So they're gaslighting themselves and they're gaslighting you as well at the same time. And that's what fuels the disorder, the grandiosity. It's what fuels all of the traits of the narcissistic personality disorder. And of course, part of the disorder, really the roots of narcissism, the roots of their sadistic tendencies is jealousy and envy. Their possessive, controlling nature. Narcissism is obsessive. And why is it obsessive? It's obsessive because they're in denial. Because they're telling themselves a story in their minds. They're gaslighting themselves. And they're gaslighting everyone else as well. And so that's what fuels it. It's all a lack of awareness. Their lack of awareness about themselves and about you. Just about the world around them in general. And it's also your lack of awareness, which could validate things for them. And all of the enablers and flying monkeys' lack of awareness too. So this is what fuels their obsession. This is the shocking reason why they're obsessed with you. It's the lack of awareness in you and in them. The denial. And many of you may be in denial about them as well. It may be too painful of a reality for you to accept. You may not want to accept that it is the truth, that was what you were dealing with. And that's how they still feel like they're in control, because if you were in denial, if you were practicing radical acceptance, if you were aware, you would be dealing with them very differently. A person like that, who did the things that they did to you, you would be responding to them in a very different way. You wouldn't be acting nice, you wouldn't be kind to them. And you would be acting a very different way regardless of their gaslighting. Regardless of their false narrative, their smear campaign, their enablers, their flying monkeys, you would be acting a very different way to them if you were fully aware of the type of person that you're dealing with. And they know that. And they know that. They know that if you were aware, if you were fully aware of what you're dealing with, you would be responding to them in a very different way. And that's what fuels their obsession, is that they are getting treatment from you that they know they don't deserve. That's what it is. It's because they know they do not deserve your kindness, your decency, your respect. They know they don't deserve any of that. And that's why they become obsessed with you. Because it makes them feel powerful, in control, when otherwise they should be terrified of you. They should be terrified of how you're going to react to them. They should be constantly on edge, paranoid, obsessing over whether or not you're going to kill them. If you're fully aware of them, if you fully know what you're dealing with. And this is how it fuels their obsession. Because they feel like they're getting away with you. They feel like they're having their way with you. They feel like they're having a privilege, special treatment that they are undeserving of. Because you just think about it. Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, if someone steals your stuff, if someone puts their hands on your things, takes it away from you, What's the punishment for that? You chop their hands off. I mean, maybe not to that extreme. Maybe that's not what the narcissist feels like they deserve from you. But they know, they understand. They possess some level of social awareness. They know what they've done to you all of that time. They understand that it corresponds with a certain treatment from you to them. They know that. And because they're not getting that treatment from you, it's like you're not fully aware. It's how they see it. Because if you were fully aware of the injustice, you would be responding to them very differently. And this is what makes them feel like you're just letting it slide. They're just getting away with it. They're having a free ride with you. That's what it makes them feel, and that's what makes them feel in control. And that's what fuels their obsession with you. Because they're getting away with it. Because in their minds you're unaware. If you were aware, you would be kicking their asses out the door. You would be responding to them very differently. You wouldn't be so polite. You wouldn't be so kind and respectful. Because typically, if someone does these things to you, if someone mistreats you, abuses you, you should be very angry. You should be wanting to hurt them. So the way they see it is, you just haven't fully figured it out. You haven't fully understood what they've been doing to you. Because if you fully understood it, you would be very angry. You would be demanding justice. So this is all because they've managed to get in with you to a certain point. They've managed to cross the border, cross over the line. And they've managed to position themselves to you. They've gained access. They've infiltrated. And they've garnered certain privileges with you that they are undeserving of. That they could not afford with you. And so essentially you're being robbed. And it's like you don't realize that you're dealing with a criminal. You don't realize that you're dealing with someone who does not deserve your respect because they've done things that they have not been held accountable for. They haven't even owned up to it. They haven't even said, yes, this is me, this is what I've done. They haven't paid the price. They haven't faced justice. And you're just letting it slide. You're still giving them your decency, your respect, to someone who has no respect for you. Because if they had any respect for you, they likely wouldn't have done that to begin with. They wouldn't have cheated, exploited you. Or even if it was something that just inadvertently happened, they would have been honest about it. They would have held themselves accountable. They would have faced justice in some sort of way. They would have made it up to you. So you're dealing with a criminal, a fraud, someone who is deceptive. And criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. The criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. Just look at any criminal, such as a burglar. If a burglar can break into a home and they can get away with it, they can take something out of their house, they can steal it and not be held accountable. Or maybe the owner of that home treats them like they're a good person, like they're a friend. And yet they just keep coming back and they keep stealing. You think that that burglar, that criminal is going to get obsessed? Of course. Of course they're going to become obsessed with that person, with that house. They're going to keep going back to it because they keep getting away with it. They keep getting what they want and not being held accountable for it. So they get to go back, they get to get what they want, and they never have to show up as themselves. They can continue to live in fantasy with this grandiose sense of entitlement. And they get to remain in a fantasy world where they are unaware of themselves, where they can continue to gaslight themselves. This is what it's about. This is what fuels their obsession. This is the shocking reason why they are obsessed with you. It's because you give them permission, you give them power to not have to show up as themselves. You give them the special ability to continue to be delusional, to continue living in a fantasy world. That's why they're obsessed with you. Because even though deep down they know they're undeserving, they know that they're a horrible person, they're a criminal, you see them as something else. And even if you don't fully see them as something else, you don't fully see them as the monster that they are. That's why they're obsessed with you. You don't give them the treatment that they really deserve. Because if you really understood what you're dealing with, the monster that they are, you would be fully exercising your power and authority on that ass. You would be making sure that they are under control, because they cannot control themselves. They will not control themselves unless they are boxed in. Unless you force them into a space, unless you restrain them. That's the only way you're going to keep someone like that under control. Someone who has no care, no concern, no remorse, a lack of empathy. And they know that at some level. But they derive fuel from you not knowing that. From you not knowing that you're dealing with someone who has no self-control. Someone who is essentially a monster. They will do anything to you. And then the next day they will act like nothing happened. Or the next minute sometimes. It's all because you don't catch on to it. You're not aware of it. You're not aware that they do not deserve your decency, your respect. You're not aware of that. You're still giving hope to the situation. You're giving them chance after chance. You're giving them your mercy, your forgiveness. And yeah, that's not the right thing to do when you're dealing with that sort of person. You cannot be cordial with them, because they will exploit that every chance that they get. And it's really what fuels their obsession. It's that just how the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. They can burgle a home. They can take what they want from somebody's house. They can just put it all into a bag, steal someone's possessions. And maybe then they can just go in the kitchen, sit down and have a cup of coffee with them. Like they never did nothing. Like there's nothing wrong with them. That's what fuels their obsession. It's when you enable them, or when you're unaware, when you're susceptible to their manipulation and gaslighting. But when you become aware, when you stop being an enabler, Unless there's other means for them to gain that control over you, such as through smear campaigns, flying monkeys, discrediting you. If they don't have other means to gain that control over you, they will lose that obsession very quickly. They will go to seeing you as someone who has no value and just doesn't even matter. It's all determined by what you see in them. But yeah, this is it. This is the shock and reason why narcissists become obsessed with you. It's because you don't know what you're really dealing with. It's because at some level, unknowingly to you, they understand that they deserve certain treatment that is not positive. They understand that they deserve certain treatment from you that you're not giving to them. They understand that you should be exercising your power and authority on them. That's what they understand at some level, but instead, you're being nice, you're being cordial, you're being friendly, you're being very merciful and forgiving, you're giving them chance after chance. And that's why they remain hooked on you. Because to some degree, you're still fueling their grandiosity. You're making them feel good about themselves, or you're making them feel powerful and in control. But no, they should feel very afraid. They should feel terrified of you. They should feel terrified of what you're going to do to them. Just like if someone broke into your house, stole from you, they should be running away terrified. Of if you're going to chase after them and beat their ass. Or if you're going to call the cops. And at some level, they know that that's how they should be feeling. They know that's how you should be responding to the situation, but instead you're calm about it. Instead you're nice to them. Instead you're unaware of just how dangerous they are. And that is what fuels their obsession. That's why they can't stop thinking about you, because you're enabling them. You're fueling their disorder. You're fueling their grandiosity, their sense of being invincible, untouchable. And this prevents their self-awareness. It prevents their healing. Because in order for a person to experience any sort of healing or development, they've got to have that self-awareness, that self-acceptance, that accountability. And to some degree, yeah, that discipline, that punishment as well, for rehabilitation. Of course, narcissists don't want that. They want to remain delusional. They want to keep gaslighting themselves. And of course, you are a catalyst for that. You are a catalyst for them to keep brainwashing themselves. For them to keep getting what they want, getting their supply. And also to keep fueling their disorder. I remember the supply. The things they get from manipulating, exploiting you, that's also what fuels their disorder as well. It tells them that they are all-powerful, they are invincible, they are above the law. It fuels their grandiosity and pushes them higher up the spectrum into psychopathy in many situations. To where they become even more dangerous, and this is really what creates a psychopath, is that they do some crazy things, they get away with it. No one holds them accountable, and they can still just have a laugh, they can still just have fun about it. That's what pushes someone into psychopathy. And this is what many of you are seeing. Many of you who are too nice, who are too kind, you're still giving them chance after chance. You're seeing them become more grandiose. You're seeing them take bigger and bigger risks. because they're gradually being pushed up the spectrum into psychopathy. And this is more common than many of you think. I mean, especially in this day and age, into today's world, many narcissists are becoming more and more psychopathic. Even Sam Vaknin has done videos on this. This is what happens if they keep getting supply, if they keep getting away with it, if they're not being held accountable. Where else is there for them to go? It's going to push them higher up the spectrum. They're not going to stay the same. If they're getting supply, if it's fueling the disorder, and they're not being held accountable, they become more psychopathic. That's what happens. And when that happens, it fuels their obsession even more. And this is why many of you start seeing them act like psychopaths, thinking they can do whatever they want, thinking they can just sit outside your house whenever they like. That's more like psychopathic behavior. Because that's just it. When you're too nice, when you're too kind, when you let them get away with things, it pushes them up the spectrum into psychopathy, to the point where they no longer feel anything. They could just go and do something in broad daylight. They feel invincible, untouchable. They feel like they can do whatever they want. And this is why you've got to be very careful, because we see this in so many cases. It starts with something small. Little things. You let them get away with little things. Things that are insignificant. I've seen this in so many cases where it starts off as something small, they get away with it, and then they do bigger and bigger things because they're not satisfied and they think they need a bigger hit. They need a higher dose, and then gradually it fuels their jealousy, their paranoia, their obsession. And then before you know it, now they're committing murders. And if they're still not being held accountable, they're still laughing at that too. They're still just making a joke out of that. They may just laugh about it. Yeah, killed someone. He had it coming. So what? He was weak. He was stupid. It's how they will look at it. This is why accountability, discipline is so important. This is why we must always discipline our kids. Because this is what happens with them. They get pushed higher and higher up the spectrum. It's all determined by what they think they can get away with. Psychopaths. They're people who were not taught right from wrong in childhood. They were not taught what they can do or not do. And this is why sometimes you see psychopaths out in broad daylight, doing things that everyone else knows is wrong. Because they are socially unaware. They don't know. And even if you tell them, it gets to a point where they still don't know. It's still not going to sink in. Because it's too late for them to learn, to understand. And they've grown up with a sense of grandiosity and special treatment. Where they feel like they're just entitled to do whatever they want. And then by that point, there's nothing you can tell them. Nothing you say is going to make them understand. The only thing they're going to do, the only thing they're going to think is that they have to act. They have to find other ways to regain that control, to regain that status, power. Because if they're not getting what they want, if they're not getting that special treatment, there must be something wrong with everyone else. There must be something wrong with this world. Because they're justified in having whatever they want, doing whatever they want to people. That's what they've been taught. Or something opposing that narrative is not what they were taught in childhood. I hope this is making sense to you. And yeah, the end of this video is really just homing in on the importance and the severity of not holding people accountable, of letting people get away with things. If you know that someone is not being held accountable, they've not been disciplined, they've gotten away with things, you want to keep a close watch on that person, because you never know what they're going to do next. You never know what they're going to think is acceptable for them to do at some point later on in their lives. If their behavior hasn't been kept in check. And so if the narcissist has developed an obsession with you, you could be in severe danger. If they think that they can hold that obsession with you, if they think they can get away with certain things, they can push boundaries with you and not be held accountable, you've got to be very careful, because it's like, all right, so what do they think they can do next? What are they going to do next? What are they going to get away with next? Because this is what they're being taught by the lack of accountability, by the lack of justice on your part. They're being taught that they can do whatever they want. And so they're going to keep pushing the bar. They're going to keep pushing boundaries. They're going to keep pushing limits. And they're going to go to greater extremes. And they're going to become very sick along the way. And not only that, but they could start a movement. They could influence other people. And it just creates this mass psychosis. This is how smear campaigns begin. Again, I'm kind of going off topic now. Smear campaigns, that's for another video. But yeah, they all become equally obsessed with you as well, because because of that lack of awareness. They live in a fantasy world. They're gaslighting themselves. They're crazy. This is what fuels it. But yeah, give this video a thumbs up if it's making sense to you. Let's get this important information out there. Your comments are very important to me. Let me know your thoughts about this video down below. I read your comments every day. If you're new here, subscribe. Click on notifications so that you'll be notified when I go live again. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate by going to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like guidance or support on your healing journey, you can book a one-on-one with me by going to my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. And if you're not following me on Instagram yet, follow me. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. I posted a reel just yesterday. A funny video of a tidal wave. It's not really a real tidal wave. It's pretty small, but I uploaded it yesterday. And so far, I think I got over 16,000 plays. So it's just something kind of funny, humorous for you to watch. And yeah, I've got new content every day that I'm uploading from my trip last year to Bali. So yeah, you can see all of that on there. Follow me on my Instagram. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. That's it for this video. As you can see, live again here from the pigeon cage. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video, and I will talk to you soon.